Hi, Shalom, I'm Clay9, and I have done lots of videos on God's holy days, the Jewish feasts, but I don't always use the correct pronunciation, so I just want to let you know, in case you're trying to use that as a reference or emulate it, my pronunciation isn't always correct. I just talk, and whatever comes in my mouth comes out, and I don't pay attention too much to how I'm saying it, but so I'm going to tell you now in this video the correct pronunciation. I'll pay close attention to what I'm saying. So I just recorded the entire video, but I had such a long introduction that I doubt people will even want to watch the whole thing, most people. So here you go. Okay, so number 1, Passover is Pesach. 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 Good. Number 2 is the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Chag HaMatzah. Chag HaMatzah. Got it? Chag HaMatzah. Within Chag HaMatzah we have what's commonly called in English Firstfruits, but in Hebrew it's actually, and in the Bible, beginning of the harvest. So that is Reshit Gatzia. Reshit Gatzia. Reshit Gatzia. Good. What's next? Well, yeah, the Feast of Pentecost, or the Feast of Weeks. The Bible calls it the Feast of Weeks on the 50th day. That is, Feast of Weeks is Chag Shavou'ot. Chag Shavou'ot. Chag Shavou'ot. Good. Then you have the Civil New Year, which commonly called today Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah, or Rosh Hashanah, Rosh Hashanah. You can roll the R like Arabic, like Spanish, or you can make it like the French R, or maybe British, but maybe French. The biblical name for Rosh Hashanah is actually Yom Teruah, Yom Teruah, or Yom Teruah, Yom Teruah. You can, again, roll the R or make it like the French R, which is a smaller roll. Yom Teruah is the Day of Trumpets. Literally, it's the day of the sounding, the day of the shouting, or the day of a certain type of a trumpet blast. So it's commonly called the Day of Trumpets. So it is Yom Teruah, Yom Teruah, or Yom Teruah, Yom Teruah. Next one is Day of Atonement. That is Yom Kippur, Yom Kippur, Yom Kippur. Okay? Or the plural Day of Atonements is Yom Kippurim, Yom Kippurim. Okay. And then last but not least is the Feast of Tabernacles, or the Feast of Booths, or the Feast of Tents, which is in Hebrew Chag Sukkot. Chag Sukkot. Chag Sukkot. Great. And then those are all in Leviticus 23, along with the Sabbath day, Yom Shabbat. Yom Shabbat. And then you also have the 2 holy times that were instituted by the prophets later. And that is number 1, Chag Hanukkah. That's normally you just say Hanukkah in English, and that is Chag Hanukkah. Chag Hanukkah. And that means feast or festival of dedication. So that's Chag Hanukkah. Chag Hanukkah, or just Hanukkah. Hanukkah. Okay? And then the second that was instituted by the prophets is in English called the lots. Lots, as in casting lots. But usually in English or Hebrew you always just say Purim. And Hebrew, Purim. 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 Alright. So there you have Pesach, Chag HaMatzah, what else? Bikrei Ketzil. What else? Chag Shavuot, Rosh Hashanah or Yom Teruah, and Yom Kippur or Yom Kippurim, and Chag Sukkot, along with Chag Hanukkah and Purim. So that's all of them. And here it is. So first of all, you have Yom Shabbat. Yom Shabbat, the day of rest, or the seventh day. So in Hebrew you have day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you have Yom Shabbat. Yom Shabbat, the day of rest, or the seventh day. And now, what does that have to do with the God's holy days? Well, the Shabbat is a very important, it's one of the most important holy days, even though you have it every single week. It marks God's people throughout time. It's the glue that has held the Jewish people together and has acted, I think, to sustain the Jewish people and keep the people alive as a people of God. Okay. Also, in the Great Tribulation and in the latter days, the end of times in the latter days, it will be a marker of who is truly of God, who is not. So you may not see that now completely, but during the Great Tribulation, when the Antichrist is ruling on earth, if you're still here, if you are one of God's children, you will be keeping the Sabbath, no doubt. So that's Yom Shabbat. Yom Shabbat. You can also just call it Shabbat. The plural of Shabbat is feminine, is Shabbatot. Shabbatot. That's plural. Now, Leviticus 23, when you start it, it's about God's holy days, listing them to Moses and to children of Israel. God starts with keep my Sabbaths. And so he's talking about the weekly Sabbath, but he's also talking about his holy days in general. So in a way, the holy days, holy feasts are his Sabbaths. And we should remember them and keep them. Okay, so Shabbat marks the week. It marks the end of the week. And then you also have what marks the month. And remember, Jewish month is lunar, so based on the moon. And the new month, or the beginning of the new month, is called Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh, or you can say Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh. Rosh means head, Chodesh means month, but it can also mean moon. That is because the new month the start of the month is marked by the day and the hour when the crescent new moon is sighted. It cannot be predicted, so Rosh Chodesh is always a hidden day. It can only be narrowed down to about a 2-day period. But the exact day, you never can predict it. So it's important to note, I'm not talking about the astronomical new moon, which can be predicted. I'm talking about the sighting of the crescent new moon that cannot be predicted. The exact time. Okay, so Rosh Chodesh is the name of the first day of every month, or the start of every month. So Chodesh means moon. So Rosh Chodesh is the start of the new moon cycle, of a new moon, or it's the start of a month. Rosh Chodesh. So Shabbat marks the weeks. Rosh Chodesh marks the months. When they fall together, it's called Shabbat Rosh Chodesh. And if you studied out the return of the Lord for his bride, his initial, in first rapture, it will be on a hidden day that no man knows the day or the hour. And Rosh Chodesh is marked by the sighting of the crescent new moon, the day and the hour it's sighted. Rosh Chodesh is always a hidden day. So Shabbat Rosh Chodesh is important. So that marks Shabbat marks a new week, Rosh Chodesh marks a new month, and the new year, there's what is called the biblical new year in the springtime, and then there's the civil new year in the fall. So the springtime new year, the Bible refers to it as the head of the months. Okay, I got distracted, now I'm back. Anyway, Rosh Chodeshim, so Exodus 12:1 through 2, excuse me. God says, the month they came out of Egypt, he said, this will be for you the head of the months. The month to start your year. The head of the months. So that's called Rosh Chodeshim. So it's also a Rosh Hashanah, but the Bible's not calling it Rosh Hashanah. What we call Rosh Hashanah is occurring actually in the fall time. So there's basically, you can say there's two starts of the year, there's two New Years, just like you can say you have two birthdays, the time when you were born from your mother's womb on earth and the time when you were born again by the Holy Spirit. So you can look at the Jewish calendar and you can say there's two Rosh Hashanah. There's one in the spring, one in the fall. The one in the spring, however, is the beginning of the cycle of the months, and therefore it is called Rosh HaChodeshim. There's only one, Rosh HaChodeshim. Okay, so I know maybe you haven't survived this long through the video because it's like, so I just have to say so many things. But anyway, so I kind of established that Rosh Chodesh, Yom Shabbat, Rosh Chodeshim. Those are pretty important. So, Rosh Chodeshim, the head of the months. So that's when the cycle of the months and the Jewish holy days and holy times begin. And so it's important to know. So the first one, the 14th of Nisan at twilight, Pesach, Passover, Pesach. Okay. Pesach marks the beginning of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, or the Festival of Unleavened Bread. That is Chag HaMatzah. Chag HaMatzah. Chag HaMatzah. And within Chag HaMatzah you have what in English we like to call it Firstfruits, but it's actually in the Bible, in the Hebrew, it says the beginning of the harvest. So Reshit Gatziel. Reshit Gatziel, the beginning of the harvest. And it's actually the first fruits of the barley. That's solim, barley, solim, the plural. So you know that the beginning of the harvest, so what we usually call in English first fruits, it marks the beginning of the counting of the Omer, the 50-day time, and the 50th day is Pentecost. In Hebrew, that is called the Feast of Weeks. So that is Chag Shavou'ot. Chag Shavou'ot. Chag Shavou'ot. Next, after quite a bit, you have today what we usually call Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah, the start of the year, but it's the civil new year. Remember, Rosh Chodeshim in the spring is the other Rosh Hashanah. But it's not, rarely you will have anyone actually refer to that as Rosh Hashanah. So Rosh Hashanah is actually in the fall. And the biblical name that you get in the Bible, Leviticus 23, is Yom Teruah. Yom Teruah, or Yom Teruah. Yom Teruah, which is day of the sounding, or the day of the shouting, or the day of the blast. Usually referred to in English as the Day of Trumpets. Yom Teruah. Yom Teruah. Either way you can say it. So you can roll the R like Spanish, like Arabic, or you can make the R more like French, which is maybe most Israelis speak this way. No, yes and no, whatever. Then 10 days after Yom Teruah, you have the Day of Atonement. That is Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur. Now the more biblical name is another biblical name is Day of Atonements, plural for atonements. That's Yom Kippurim. Yom Kippurim. And then last but not least, that you find in Leviticus 23, is 5 days after that, and it's basically 7 days long, with an 8th day, so it's actually 8 days. You have Chag Sukkot. Chag Sukkot. And that is, well, I don't have to explain it. So you say Chag Sukkot. And so that's all the ones in Leviticus 23. You have the Sabbaths, the new moons, and then you have, it's about 7, right? Pesach, Chag HaMatzah, Reshit Gatziel, Chag Shavuot, Yom Teruah, Yom Kippur, Hag Sukkot. That's 7. And then you have 2 more. That makes 9. Hanukkah, right? Hanukkah, whatever. And so then in Hebrew, Chag Hanukkah. Chag Hanukkah. Technically, it's not really a Hag, but it's like the second Sukkot, so I have no problem saying Chag Hanukkah. Chag Hanukkah. 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 Okay. And then, last but not least, Purim, which is about a month before Passover. Purim. So, Chag Hanukkah is the festival of dedication. Chag Hanukkah. Sorry, I'm not being consistent. But anyway, and then Purim means lots. Purim. Okay, so that's it. If you like this video, you might like some more of the videos posted on my channel, Jar of Clay 9. You also may be interested in some of the prophecies at amightwywind.com or almightywind.com. There's also some of these prophecies with Hebrew and English side by side on my channel if you're getting into Hebrew. Anyway, have a nice day.